So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Hey, Lashy Kids and Driving Mutants. How was your holiday weekend? I'll, Let me put that on the screen. Let me take this banner down. I see, well, there were a couple people that checked in, but then I guess they checked out. I guess I didn't get to it fast enough, but we're here now. Um, Tony Man says it. I worked. It was horrible yesterday. Well, yeah, I forgot that yesterday was a holiday, well, sort of holiday because I work through the day too, mostly on my computer. Let me reshare my screen and we'll get to it. And pull up my notes. So at least this will be cool on the replay. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna make myself small today because I have bags underneath my eyes because I stayed up. Well, I messed up my entire sleep pattern, staying up watching Stranger Things until 6 o'clock in the morning. By the way, this is only a recap and review of episodes 1 and 2. And the first episode was called Chapter 1, The Hellfire Club. Now, I had a really, really interesting start to the episode. It starts out with a flashback back to 1979. And the character that you see on the screen, you see him getting ready in the morning. And it's really interesting because he sets a timer and then starts doing a crossword puzzle. And of course, he finishes it before the timer. Then you see him very meticulously trimming a bonsai tree and getting himself ready, shaving, getting ready to go to the lab. And he is, let me remember, what is this character's name? I know I wrote it down. That's not the right note. Where's my notes? Am I tripping? There it is. My bad. Dr. Brenner. That's the character's name. So he's running the lab, which we saw. Oh, actually, let me take this off the screen and put this on the screen because that's, I'm gonna leave that up for a minute. Spoilers ahead, yes. So he's in the lab that 11 comes from. In the beginning of this, all you see is him walk into like a playroom and he talks to number 10 and he asks number 10, are you ready to study again today? And number 10 has like a magic 8 ball and he shakes it up and it says all signs point to yes. So he takes number 10 in another room and number 10 is doing this exercise that's either practicing clairvoyance or maybe remote viewing, might be more accurate. And as he's doing this, he pauses and he tells the doctor, why are they screaming? And then he tells them, oh my gosh, they're all dead. And so the doctor runs into the other room and he sees nothing but the corpses of children all twisted up and bloodied all over the place. And then you see number 11 turn around and he's just like, what have you done? That's the opening. That's, to me, that was like really letting you know where this was about to go. As a matter of fact, it's, the show actually had a disclaimer at the beginning because of last week's events showing, all those children mangled, um, could be extremely triggering. So be forewarned about that. It jumps forward to, I'm going to call them our gang from Stranger Things. Now, what's interesting, oh, before I move forward, let me also reiterate the point that they do show the aftermath of the bodies. Like when I say twisted, I mean literally the bodies are twisted up and broken and bloody. And when 11 turns around, this is how she looks. I thought it was pretty compelling. It actually kind of reminded me of this movie called The Witch Part 1 Subversion, which is also on Netflix. It's a South Korean sci-fi action movie. It's really, really good, but it has a similar opening. We find out that 11 is in school out in California. She's living with Joyce, Will, and Jonathan. I almost forgot his name. So she started a new life. She's going by the name Jane now, and this is her and Will in school. Um, she looks positive there because she's just made this diorama that she wants to show the class. They're supposed to use a visual aid, so that's why she's done that. But then when she's in class, oh, actually, before I go to there, they introduce a new character named Argyle, who is Jonathan's friend. Argyle gives them a ride to school. I don't know why I reversed the order of those pictures, but this is Argyle. His character is really funny because he's like, if you mix Bill Murray's character from Caddyshack and Sean Penn as Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then at a dash of Keanu Reeves as Bill S. Preston Esquire from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you get Argyle. Like that's literally he's like an amalgamation of that 80s trope, and he's doing a really, really good job at this. I thought that was really, really funny. This is Mike's mother, and I just wanted to put this picture here because the 80s look is on point. The makeup, the hair, the jewelry, the clothes, like the costume designers really did their job. This is believable. I mean, it does look a little bit wiggy, like they could probably make it look less wiggy, but it's a good job as far as like 80s looks go. And on that note, I do want to talk about the costume design, even for the students in the school. When the kids are walking down the hallway, let me see if you can see them in the background. All the students are dressed in 80s attire. Like they had to dress at least 100 people in 80s clothes. And they did a really good job because nobody looks out of place. Nobody looks like they're not of that era. I think they did a really good job. Also, side note, as I'm looking at Will's hair, it's rumored that this actor did not want to wear the bowl cut anymore, but the Duffer Brothers were like, "You're wearing a bowl cut," and it's giving him a little bit of an Elijah Wood look now. When they get to the school, all the students, whether it's Dustin, who we are reintroduced to him on the phone with his girlfriend. What was Dustin's girlfriend's name? Because I have a terrible memory. You guys know this. Susie. Dustin was on the phone with Susie trying to change his grade in one of his classes. Since Susie's like a genius, she hacked into the school's computer and changed the grade. I know that seems kind of um, what's the word I'm looking for? People might have thought that this is not something that happened in the 80s, but it literally did happen in the 80s. As a matter of fact, my brother did that in the 80s. I think he either changed his grade or he hacked into the computer and made it look like the library books that he had that were overdue were not overdue. So yeah, this is a thing that used to happen. Um, I want to get back to my notes so I don't forget anything. I like how they showed the students going to school in different ways. Like, for example, Mike got to the high school by his sister Nancy driving him. Um, Robin and Steve, they drove together to the school. And then it shows Max getting off the school bus, and they all are directed to go to a pep rally. So they're at the pep rally because the school this year is going to the basketball championship. And that's when we see where Lucas is. He's one of the basketball players, and he has a high top fade, which looked clean. Like, this is literally how the high top fades used to look. Like, I am well, I was gonna say I'm living proof, but I'm not proof. I never had a high top fade, but I'm saying I have living memory of the 80s, and I remember how high top fades looked, and that's legit how that looks on him. By the way, when Robin and Steve were driving to school, um, "Object of My Desire" was playing on the radio, and I was like, "This soundtrack is about to be a bop." I like that. Also, when Max got off the bus, speaking of music, she has her Walkman on, and it is the type of Walkmans that we would have had back then. So I like it's the little things. I don't know whether there would be a Coca-Cola sign inside the school though. I don't know whether that was allowed or not. I don't remember our schools having advertisement in them, but it's a possibility because with America having 50 states and there's different rules and regulations in each state, you never know. Now, the thing about Lucas playing basketball and him being in the state championship is that it's happening at the very same time as the Hellfire Club's. Um, I guess I don't know if they literally call it Dungeons and Dragons, but I think it's a dungeon. It's meant to be a Dungeons and Dragons type game. No, actually, I take that back. They do literally call it Dungeons and Dragons. So the Hellfire Club, which is a club where they play Dungeons and Dragons, is having their game night at the same time as Lucas' basketball game. Lucas also plays Dungeons and Dragons, so he's trying to get them to change the date of the Dungeons and Dragons game. So he's telling um, am I the only person that confuses Mike and Will? It always takes me a moment to remember which one is Will and which one is Mike. Because to me they don't look similar, but there's something similar about them. Maybe it's just the lankiness and the dark hair, but they don't look alike at all. So he's talking to Mike and Dustin about them changing the date or trying to get the leader to change the date of the Hellfire Club so that he doesn't have to miss it for his championship. And also, he wants them to come and support him at the championship game. Meanwhile, Joyce receives a package that's postmarked coming from Russia. When she opens the package, it has a Russian doll inside of it. So then she calls up Murray to help her figure out what to do. And Murray tells her to smash the doll open to see if there's anything inside of it, which there was. There was a note inside of it, notifying her that Hopper's still alive and also having a phone number for her to call. So when she calls the phone number, she's told that they need to bring $40,000 in exchange for Hopper to Yuri's Fish Fry. I think that's so funny. I want a T-shirt that says Yuri's Fish Fry in Alaska. So that's the side plot. This little here, I'm editing myself, is an 80s trope. That's, the blonde bully. There has to be one. If you're going to make an 80s style movie, you have to have a blonde bully in it. So this is what we have for our blonde bully, and she's bullying 11 in school. 11, aka Jane, in school. And again, if you look in the background, let me make my screen larger so I can see here. Do you see this fit back here? This acid wash jean dress and the bow on her head, and this one with the collar and everything they did is so accurate. Her outfit with the pink stripes, her earrings. The only thing is I think the hair might have been a little bit more teased than this, but I mean, they did a really good job with just the look of everything representing 1986, which is when I believe this is taking place. So this little girl is evil as hell, and she just stays making fun of 11 for really bad reasons, like making fun of the fact that she doesn't have a father anymore. And it's like, it's accurate to 80s bullying. Yeah, people were that mean. It sucks, but that's what happened. We're also introduced to this new character. Her name is Chrissy, and she is a troubled cheerleader who visits the same school counselor that Max does. They're both receiving, it could be the school psychologist that I think they're talking to, but they're both receiving help from the school psychiatrist or psychologist, usually it is. And she is being haunted by these waking nightmares. I do really like her character, and I like the actress. The actress kind of reminds me of if you mix Alyssa Milano with Rose McGowan. But I liked her a lot. And another new character they introduced us to is Eddie, who is the leader of the Hellfire Club and a super duper senior. I don't know if people still use that term, but the term super duper senior means that you were supposed to have been graduated, but you're still here. You're maybe your second or third go around, because back in the 80s they didn't have that they didn't have the No Child Left Behind policy, and a lot of schools gave people the option to either go to summer school or repeat the whole grade. And so there were people that were literally 3 years behind because they got to repeat the grades. But his character is really, really cool too. I like him a lot. He's giving me Robert Downey Jr., and I'm loving it. Like, if anything, he kind of stole the show. And when I say he reminds me of Robert Downey Jr., I mean Robert Downey Jr. circa Weird Science, not Tony Stark. For anybody that may want to look that up, because that's a long time ago. Robert Downey Jr. is a very interesting person. He actually went to prison for a while, and then had to come back and start from scratch to reignite his acting career. And when he was in prison, he was in general population, not protective custody. So, like, to be a famous actor and then have to go to a prison and be in general population is pretty rough. And he survived that. So that's interesting. So anyways, this is part of scene where Dustin and Mike are asking him if they can postpone the Hellfire Club D&D game so that they can go to, or so that Caleb can still participate, and also so they can go see him at the game. And he's like, nah, you have to find a substitution. And he kind of low-key geek bullies them. I mean, if that's the best way I can describe it. He geek bullies them. And so they have to find a substitution. And look at the little T-shirts. Those are very interesting T-shirts. Later, the same character, Eddie, goes to meet with the cheerleader, Chrissy. And Chrissy really wants to get some drugs to numb herself, because I'm kind of skipping forward. I'm going to have to skip back again. because she is experiencing, I had mentioned before, the waking nightmares. There is a sequence in this, and I don't have a image to go with it, but I'll just describe what happens where she goes into the bathroom and it literally feels like a scene from a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Like everything about it feels Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, how do I describe it? Oh, when she's in the stall, at first she hears her mother's voice, but then the voice changes, so obviously it's, a creature and not her mother. But the things that her mother's saying to her about her weight and about taking fixing her clothes because she's gained weight, it was reminding me of Tina's mother from Nightmare on Elm Street 3 mixed with, what was the girl in Nightmare on Elm Street 5 that was a model? What was her name? Her mother. Those two Nightmare on Elm Street mothers mixed together. That's what her mother, or the creature pretending to be her mother, sounded like. It was really, really creepy. And then you see the creature's feet, and it's like banging on the stall, and she's curled up in the corner next to the toilet screaming. It was a really great scare sequence. It really, really was. I like that a lot. But anyways, that's the reason why she wants to meet with Eddie to go get some drugs. Because at first Eddie was just going to sell her some weed, but she was like, "Do you have anything stronger? Because I'm trying to forget whatever's going on in my head." I think it goes back to. Let me advance to the next picture to jog my memory. Back in California, that little blonde girl trips Jane 11. I'm going to keep calling her Jane 11 since she's going by Jane. And she tries to, do what her normal thing is, but she discovers that she doesn't have her powers anymore. So she's just out there looking crazy. And of course, the kids laugh at her, and this just makes the bullying even worse because they're like, "Look at this weird girl screaming and stretching her hand out." They don't understand what the hell she's doing because her powers just aren't there. It's not giving what it's supposed to give. Poor thing. So they find a substitution in Lucas's little sister. I keep wanting to call her Dee because she reminds me of Dee from What's Happening, but her name is Erica. But I keep wanting to call her Dee because she has that whole "I'm going to tell mama" type of vibe, and I think that's who her character is modeled off of, is Dee. But she goes to substitute for Caleb in the D&D game and wins the game because she's very, very good. I think she said her name was Lady. Did I write down what she said her name was? I didn't write down what her D&D name was. It was cute though. If somebody knows, write in the comments what her Dungeons and Dragons name was. Oh, I don't want to talk about that just yet. Let me go back to that frame. Um, I don't have a screen capture for it, but Lucas does win the championship, and the way he hit that jump shot just before, well, the ball's in the air as the buzzer went off, so it was still good, but it was giving me Teen Wolf, that last scene in Teen Wolf when everybody is holding their breath waiting to see if the ball's going to go in the basket. That's what it was giving, and of course it did, and he won the championship. Everybody picks Lucas up in the air and they're all happy, but then when Lucas goes outside, he sees all of them coming out of the D&D club, and he feels kind of sad because also earlier he had asked Max if she would come to the game too, and she was like, "Nah, I'm good." And so nobody came to his game, and even his little sister didn't come to his game. So I know he was feeling some type of way about that. Hello, Lordran. Tony Man says she kind of reminded me of Dee and Tootie from the Facts of Life. Yes, I think that's what she's meant to remind you of. Where did I leave off? This is where things get funky because Chrissy decides that she is going to go with Eddie back to his uncle's trailer because, as I said earlier, she wanted something heavier or stronger than weed. So she and Eddie went back to the trailer to go look for his special K. So while they're in the trailer, Eddie is searching his room trying to find if he has some special K in there to sell her, and she gets a waking vision again. And it's this sequence is really good because it reminds you of several movies at once. This is how the creature ended up looking as it came up to her. Now, before you see the creature, you see the lights coming through these slats that are over here on the right. And when the lights were coming through those slats, it dead ass reminded me of Hellraiser. And then, of course, the creature is acting halfway like Freddy Krueger, but then halfway the creature is acting like Pinhead because the creature says something to her about her suffering, how he wants to do something with her suffering. And I'm like, how very Hellraiser of you to mention her suffering. But yeah, and then even the creature's design kind of reminds me of a couple other creatures. Like aside from, I mean, you got the big claws there. That is Freddy Krueger esque, but any type of demon esque with these claws. But the other things that this creature's face kind of remind me of, I'll give you a better look at the creature's face, which the creature design is pretty good, and the effects work is very well done. Like that's really well done. But the way his nose shape and everything is kind of reminds me of Swamp Thing. And also the viney things on him is reminding me of Swamp Thing. And then the other creature that it reminded me of was the creature from the Keep. I forget what what the creature's name is from the Keep, but if anybody knows it, feel free to put it in the comments. But that's what this creature, like, especially these tendons on the neck, and the fact that the creature's bald and kind of you can see their musculature. It looks, you see the tendons on the neck there. But yeah, if you put those two creatures together with and add Freddy Krueger, you get this creature as well. Tony Man says, reminding me of the bad guy in Hellraiser 2. Yes. In episode 2, yeah. You're talking about that doctor that became a Cenobite. I don't remember the doctor's name. I used to have that memorized. I don't know why I don't know that doctor's name anymore. But yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. I didn't tell you guys what happened at the end of Chrissy, but basically she gets picked up in the air by the creature. Meanwhile, Eddie is looking, but he can't see anything. Like she can see the creature, but he can't see anything. It's very reminiscent of the first Nightmare on Elm Street when Rod is in a room with Tina and Rod sees Tina being picked up in the air. It's like the same thing. That's what Eddie is seeing with Chrissy. And so he runs out of there. He hightails out of there because he's scared as hell, which anyone would be. And that's where the episode ends. Oh, did they show her limbs twisting up? I think they did. I think they showed all her limbs twisting up and breaking. It was really wild. I enjoyed it though. Let me go forward into episode 2 or chapter 2, which is called Vecna's Curse. This starts off showing us what happened to Hopper. Apparently he got captured by the Russians, which is also another 80s trope, to be captured by Russians. Or to have any type of dealings that are negative with Russians, a very 80s trope, because we were still in the Cold War. And, as you can see, they kind of treated him like the beginning of John Rambo when he got arrested. Like, first they shave his head, but then they gave him that Rambo shower with the hose. That's what I call it, a Rambo shower. And then they threw him in a prison camp. That's the prison camp. Let me make that larger. And it's cold, which I mean, that's a given. I don't have to tell anybody that. Mike takes a plane to California to go visit Jane 11 and Will and Jonathan and, of course, Argyle. They meet him at the airport. And this scene was kind of funny because Argyle is asking him about his shirt. And he doesn't really answer him, but then Argyle acts like he's going to hug him, but he looks at the tag at the back of his shirt and he's like, oh, yeah, this is a bootleg. And I just thought that was funny. Side note, Jonathan looks old as hell. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, there's supposed to be one more season of Stranger Things after season 4. It's supposed to be season 5. This Jimmy Fallon looking dude is not you. He already doesn't pass for a teenager. Okay, it's really going to be a hard sell. I mean, they're probably making him a freshman in college, but even then, he looks old to be a freshman in college. It's crazy. He just doesn't. And it's my understanding the actor is not actually that old. He just looks this way. Yeah, he's it's not giving a teenager to me at all. But that's a side note. We also find out that Steve and Robin work at a video store, and shout out to the set designers, the set, I guess, whatever set crew, whoever built the video store. Shout out to those people because they did a good job building a video store, making it look how the video stores used to look. I can almost smell how how a video store smells when I see the scene of Steve and Robin in a video store. That was really, really well done. After the basketball game, Lucas ended up going out with the basketball team and they were drinking and partying all night. So he has a hangover. And this is the scene where they're just about to find out what happened to Chrissy, because Chrissy was also supposed to go to this party, but she never showed up. And so her boyfriend was apparently not all that worried about her because he didn't go looking for her. He stayed at the party. So this is them finding out what happened to Chrissy, because now there's a whole police investigation, because even though Eddie ran away, since it was Eddie's uncle's trailer, the uncle came back and found Chrissy and had to call the police and all that stuff. So this is where we're at with that. And they're also reporting about it on the radio, so the whole town now knows about Chrissy's murder. So everybody's on edge. At the same time, Max told Dustin that she saw Chrissy and Eddie go into the house together, but she also saw Eddie run out of the house. But she was very specific to say that Eddie ran away, not like he did something wrong, but like he was terrified. Let me pause to read a few comments. Tony Man says was it Dr. Philip Channard? I had to look it up. Might be. I'm not 100% sure. Lordrin says cocaine is a hell of a drug. Mm-hmm. Now, is that the same thing as Special K? I'm not familiar with those level of drugs. I only know about weed. That's all I know about. Don't know any other drugs. So I'm just trying to tie that comment into the other thing. Where did I leave off? Oh yeah, Max was also telling Dustin that just before everything happened, that all the lights and everything flickered in her trailer just before Eddie ran out of the house. So she felt like something weird is going on. She doesn't know what, but she feels like, you know how you get a gut feeling that something's off? That's where Max is right now. She's got a gut feeling that something is off. Back in California, Jane 11 takes Mike and Will to the skating rink. And again, look at the extras. Look at this. I'm so impressed with like the costume design. I love the fact that they did the damn thing. They made everyone look appropriate. So they're at the skating rink trying to have a good time. Will is back here being a third wheel. But the thing is, the third wheel to who? At one point, you're like, oh, well, is he jealous because Jane 11 is spending all her time with Mike? Or is he jealous because Mike is spending all his time with Jane 11? And of course, they show up again, and I'm going to continue to call them the acid wash posse, because look at all this acid wash stuff here. Look at this jacket right here. This would be the bomb jacket to have if you had that in the 80s. These were hard to come by. These were easier to get. But this jacket right here, this is the bomb jacket. That's probably why she feels so high on herself. But it's such an 80s trope where you have the bully and then you have their sycophants back here who never say anything. They just back up the bully. And it's just weird. Like, how could you even live your life like that? I couldn't just be the person standing behind somebody else going, right, you tell her. Like, that's not, who is that? What type of person does that? That's almost worse than a bully because you're just a follower, a monkey see, monkey do ass person. Like that's I couldn't. It couldn't be me. That's all I'm saying. It couldn't be me. At the roller rink, they were playing some pretty cool 80s bops. They were playing "You Spin Me Round" from Dead or Alive, and they played "Rock Me Amadeus." Can't remember the name of the artist who sang that, but they also played Tarzan Boy, and I don't really like that song, but it is a little bit nostalgic. But they spent a lot of money on the music in this show, and I appreciate that. And again, like I said with I'm going to go back a slide. Will right here stays looking at Mike very longingly. And I don't know whether it's meant to come across as he has a crush on this dude or he just misses his friend in a platonic way. It's hard to tell the way it's being acted out. Not that I'd be upset at anything like that. It doesn't bother me. I just was wondering. Tony Man says Special K is ketamine. It's an anesthetic. I can't speak today. It's an anesthetic. Okay. Well, it makes sense. That would numb her pain. Like she said, she wanted to numb her pain. Okay. So at the roller rink, they decide they are going to still continue to bully Jane 11, by telling her to come out on the dance floor and standing her there, and then they circle around her while the song Wipeout is played, and then a little boy rolls up to her with her own milkshake that she had previously been drinking at the table and throws it on her, and she ends up on the floor covered in milkshake in the middle of the roller rink. And of course all the people laugh at her, and I'm looking at both Will and Mike like, y'all are some punks. You just sat there and let it happen, and you ran over after. Those are not the type of friends to have. Don't have friends that are punks, because they'll never have your back. They'll just be back. Well, they'll have your back way, way back there, asking if you're okay afterwards. No, no, no. If there's 3 of us and 4 of you, we're fighting. That's just me. That's just me, and that's the type of friends I roll with. So anyways, she finally gets fed up. All through episode 1, I wanted her to punch that girl in the face. Like when she tripped her in the courtyard and she made her break her diorama, I was like, why don't you get up and punch this girl in the face? She didn't do it then. Then this happens. She doesn't do it again. She runs into like a storage closet and cries for a while. Then she comes out and demands that whatever the girl's name was, I can't remember, Angela, give her an apology. And she's like, I'm not apologizing. And so finally, she gets mad enough to do something, and she clocks this girl in the face with a roller skate. And I was like, it's about time. Meanwhile, back in Hawkins, Dustin and Max are trying to find Eddie. Now they find out that since, Eddie was selling weed, that his supplier was named Reefer Rick. So they figure, well, maybe he's hiding out at Reefer Rick's, but they don't know where Reefer Rick lives. So they try to figure out where he lives. But the thing is, they don't have his last name, so they can't look him up in a phone book because they only know him by Reefer Rick. So they end up going to the video store to see if they can look him up there. And I don't remember whose idea it was, but Robin ends up looking up all the Ricks in the computer and deciding which one is Reefer Rick by what their rental history is. And since there was a person that came up whose name was Rick, and they rented Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke like 3 times, and they also rented some other Cheech and Chong movies, that must be Reefer Rick. So then they finally get his address. Let me pause to read this comment. Lordran says she gave her those hands, I mean skates. Yes, right to the face. She deserved that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She deserved that. What she did was awful. I forgot to mention that they recorded the whole thing too. They had old school VHS camera, and they had the plan to record that because those old, let me tell you, my father used to have one of those old school VHS cameras, and a lot of times that battery life was like 40 minutes. Like literally 40 minutes. So you had to really, really plan it down to the minute when you're going to record something, because otherwise you'll run out of juice in the battery. unless you have like the portable battery pack, which back then was like this shoulder bag and the battery was like this big. And no one's really walking around with those like that by the late 80s. But anyways, I digress. They're back at the video store. They found Reefer Rick's address, and they're gonna go over there to see if they can find Eddie. I don't know if I had an image for that. Did I? No, but I should talk about them as well. Nancy and her, I wrote down in my notes friend, but he's more like an associate at the school newspaper. They go on a side trip to try to find out more information. So they go to the trailer park to ask questions of the residents to try to figure out what's going on. And unfortunately, Fred is seeing the same waking nightmares that Chrissy was seeing. And it's kind of cool how they set it up, because when they first get to the trailer park, there's like a police officer stationed there because it's a crime scene now. So you can't just roll in there. So the police officer is like, you can't come in here. This is a crime scene. But then Nancy's like, well, I have a friend that lives there and her mother isn't available to check on her. So I need to go check on her because she's underage. So the police officer is like, okay, you can go in there, but you got to come right back out. That's what Nancy hears. But at the same time, Fred is sitting there, and what he hears is the police officer's voice change into like a monstrous voice, and is telling him that you're a murderer, and I can't remember what else I just remember him repeating, "You're a murderer, you're a murderer, you're a murderer," and this is freaking Fred out because apparently Fred was in a car accident that killed some other passengers in a different car, so he has guilt over that. And that's when I got the first inkling of how this creature works. It's a little bit like it and Freddy Krueger in that it feeds off of the children's fears. And Freddy Krueger comes for you in your dreams. But, you know, as we saw, spoiler alert for the first Nightmare on Elm Street, if you haven't seen this movie that's almost 40 years old, I'm sorry, but go see it. The ending of that movie showed that Freddy was defeated by Nancy not believing him anymore. So that seems to be another component of this creature. If the person that the creature is going after believes and fears the creature, it seems like that makes the creature stronger or able to really harm this person. Because it seems like when the kids first start getting these visions, the creature can't hurt them just yet. They have to become more and more afraid, because the first vision they see, it seems, is like this clock ticking down, and then they start to get scared and they get more scared, and then finally the creature is able to get to them. Now I know this episode is actually this took me a while, only because the first episode is almost an hour and a half long. I think it was like an hour and 20 minutes. It's basically a movie. First episode is basically like a mini movie, and the second episode is like regular episode length. They do end up finding Eddie. They go to Reefer Rick's house, and no one's in his house, but there's a boathouse behind that house, and so they're back there in the boathouse. And was it Steve was hitting the inside of the boat with an oar, and Dustin's like, just take the blanket off of there, and he's like, nah, I'm gonna hit it with an oar because I don't know what's under there. And he was kind of right, because Eddie was underneath there, and I know it had to hurt him to get hit by an oar underneath the blanket on a boat. But Eddie finally comes out, and of course he's shook up, and the people that are there, I think it was Steve, Dustin, Robin, and Max, and they all sit him down and say, listen, there's some weird stuff happening in Hawkins. We've seen creatures before. This is probably the same type of ish. We have a feeling that you didn't do this, but it might be some other stuff. But, you know, hold on to your butt, because we're about to tell you some stuff. And that's what they did. They kind of filled him in on the goings-ons that they went through in the previous years in Hawkins, and tell him that they want to help him, basically. Unfortunately, the episode ends with the creature closing in on Fred here, at the trailer park, because this is all while Nancy is talking to Eddie's uncle, who's telling him about Victor Creed. And it's very interesting, because every time he said Victor Creed, I kept on thinking Victor Crowley from Hatchet, but he tells her a little bit about Victor Creed, but we don't hear the full story, I don't think, until the next episode. we do get to see a larger image of the creature. And this is why I think it reminds Tony Man of the Doctor from Hellraiser 2, because of the way it is suspended in the air. I had a really great time watching this season. I finished the whole season. That's why I said I was tired. Well, I said at the beginning of the video, but in case anybody came late, I was up till 6 in the morning watching Stranger Things on Friday. I watched it from Friday until Saturday morning, and my sleep schedule still messed up. Now let's roll into Chucky. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to have to go into another one. Please bear with me. There we go. Let me look at this comment. Lordran says, I can't do binge watching anymore. I feel like I'm close to death. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, I know why I did that. The show was so good, I didn't want to turn it off. It really was so good. I wanted to see what happened next. And I have to say, it's to me, I had a better time with this season than season 3. Season 3 was good, but I feel like season 4 is really, really, really good. So far, it hasn't finished yet, which is why I'm just doing the first 2 episodes this week. Next Tuesday, I will do episode 3 and 4 and so on. And hopefully, we'll have finished the first 7 episodes before the final episode 8 and 9 come out in July. Tony Man says, I have to get moving. Sorry, I can't stay. I'll see you live streaming tomorrow. Actually, you can also see later tonight because I will be on Hood Podcast. I believe that will publish at about 9 p.m., but we'll also be talking about Chucky and possibly a little bit about Obi-Wan. But have a safe journey home. I know you're probably just getting out of work and that's why you're traveling. Bob says, I can sympathize with the abuse and Chucky. While I'm not gay, I do live with a very violent parent. Drama. I do live. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Bob. That is very, very unfortunate. I hope that you're able to get out of that situation at some point. And I hope that you're able to have access to help because that takes a toll on your mental health. And they say that as many years as you're abused, it may take that many years to I want to use the right words because I don't want to say cure because it's not really a cure. It's more of managing your feelings after that because it does it attacks your self-esteem. It can give you anxiety. It can give you depression. There's so many things that you can get from coming up in that type of environment, and it takes a great effort to try to. I see my mind wants to say reverse those things, but you can't reverse them. All you can do is manage them. You can make them manageable. And I'm speaking from experience as a person who's dealt with depression. I can't reverse it. I can't cure it, but I can manage it. Tony Man says, okay, cool. Bob says, last week she pushed me and caused my torn ACLs to hurt, and today hurt my finger to get me to clean up. Oh, that's terrible. That's really terrible. So I'm hoping that it was a little bit cathartic to see Chucky do what he did to Jake's father. But I also, if you are in school, you may be able to have access to a counselor that, but depending on your age, I'm thinking about whether, because you're in a situation where you most likely would not want to get a counselor to contact your parent. If you're in college, you can have a counselor that doesn't contact your parent, but I'm not sure what the rules are in high school. Or another thing that you may be able to go to is they do have Al-Anon meetings. And Al-Anon, because it's anonymous, they don't contact your parents. So you would be able to attend Al-Anon meetings for emotional support. So I definitely would see if you can go online and see if you can find one in your area, because I think it's very important for you to get emotional support. Tony Min says, "How old are you?" I'm gonna wait a moment before I go into the next thing because I don't want to treat this lightly. Okay, Bob says 27. I moved back with my mom because she was sick and she trapped me here. She was only sick for 1 month after I got here. Okay, okay. Said yeah, it was terrible because well, don't talk down on yourself. That's not good. I don't want you to talk down on yourself. It's a difficult situation, but the positive is because you're grown, no one has to notify her of shit that you do. So if you need to go and find a support system, then you can do that. And I encourage you to do that. You don't have to deal with this situation by yourself. I really, really strongly, strongly suggest you do it. And also, it's free. Al-Anon is free. There's other support groups that are free. Start there if you don't have access to um, other means of therapy, because it's something. Even just having to move home to take care of a sick parent is stressful enough and anxiety inducing enough for you to need, some therapeutic help or therapeutic intervention. So please, please, please do that. And it not only will help you get through what you're going through right now, it'll help you prepare for the future, because this is not a situation that's going to last forever. Okay, Bob says I have both mental health counselor and disability. It could be a matter of just changing. And I don't mean you changing, but sometimes there is a how would I call it to make it make more sense? I call it like chemistry. Sometimes it's a therapeutic chemistry, because I've been to multiple counselors. Sometimes the first one you talk to isn't the right fit for you. Record her last time she had a fit and sent it to both my workers, so hopefully they'll do. Yeah, I think that'll help. If they're worth a damn, that should help. She once tried to grab me and throw me out of the apartment. I bit her. Oh, this is really, yeah, that's really dangerous. That's really, really dangerous. It sounds like she also has some mental issues that she has to, that, I mean, you can't force anyone to work on themselves. People, you have to choose it themselves. But yeah, let me know what happens afterwards, after you sent those recordings to your counselors. Hopefully they'll be able to intervene. I'm going to continue to talk about Chucky because I promised everybody that I would. But Bob, stay strong and do, like I said, even outside of counseling, I still would go to those groups, because sometimes those groups can give you more information than I can give you, especially in your area. Okay, so the Chucky series actually started last year, and I watched it already. So I'm just rewatching it for the sake of reviewing it, because I really wanted to review it at that time, but I don't know. I think I was very busy trying to do the 31 Days of Horror, because I think it dropped in October, and I was reviewing a lot in October. Um, So that's why I didn't get to do it when it first ran. But I thought it would be a great pairing with Stranger Things because it's also about teens. Although these teens are younger than our Stranger Things teens are now, they are middle schoolers, and I love that they actually hired age appropriate actors. Although it does make their filming harder because of regulations as far as how long a young actor can work as opposed to an adult actor playing a young actor. For example, the young lady that plays Max on Stranger Things, she's about 20 or 21 years old, even though she looks a good 15. Like she literally looks age appropriate in her role. She's actually a grown woman. Did I pull up my notes for Chucky? Yes, I did. Okay. So we meet Jake, who is a middle schooler, and he runs into Chucky at a yard sale, sitting back there looking innocent as he does sometimes. And Jake decides he's gonna buy Chucky, and his plan is to resell Chucky on eBay. That's why he has the doll. I know a lot of people were like, well, why would this teenage boy be running around with this doll? Because he's, at an age where both boys or girls typically don't have dolls with them. But that's the reason. He wants to go to this art camp and he doesn't have the money to go. So he figures he can buy this collector's item doll, resell it on eBay. And then, oh, let me make that picture bigger for y'all. Resell it on eBay and get enough money for him to go to the art camp. He has issues. This is how we got into the conversation that Bob and I were having, the side conversation. He has an abusive alcoholic father. And one of the things that his father really, really harps on him about is how he identifies, which is as a young gay boy. And his father is super homophobic and just can't deal. So that's an unfortunate thing that Jake has to go through. Now, why Jake ends up bringing the doll to school is because his father basically threatens to throw the doll in the trash. And Jake is really trying to resell this doll. And so he ends up taking this doll to school. You can see the look on his face. He's not trying to be walking around school with a doll, but he doesn't want his father to throw out this doll that someone has offered him $600 for. Someone has offered him $600 for this, which incidentally, if you want to buy a Chucky doll, and it's from the original Child's Play, not the one I have back here. This one is from Child's Play too, but the original one from the first Child's Play is $600. Like that, I mean, the one that is true to size from the movie and everything is $600. So yeah, he didn't want his father to throw away a doll that he could possibly make $600 off of, so he took it to school with him. Also going to his school. Oh, you know what? I skipped over a part because I didn't put the picture there. I'll leave the picture there, but I skipped over a part where his uncle, his aunt, and his cousin came over for dinner, and his cousin, who is pictured here in this gray sweater, is named Junior, and he was trying to like get under Jake's skin by talking about him being gay at the dinner table, saying, "Oh well, we're all it's the new era. Nobody cares about you being gay anymore," knowing that Jake didn't want to talk about it because he didn't want his father to go off. But since Junior doesn't care whether Jake's father goes off, he was like antagonizing him. In this scene, we learned that Junior, Jake, and Junior's girlfriend, I started to call her Lexi. She looks like a Lizzie, doesn't she? She looks like a Lizzie. But anyways, Junior and Lexi go to the same middle school with Jake. And not only does Junior antagonize his cousin, he lets his girlfriend Lexi bully him too, that's not cool. Like if you're supposed to be his cousin, you're supposed to look out. And that's messed up. So I didn't like that. Junior's in class, and obviously it's science class. And if you look in the background, you can see back here, Lexi and Junior ready to start some shit. He's supposed to be dissecting this frog, but he doesn't want to dissect the frog because he's like, I can't stand the sight of blood. So he closes his eyes for just a moment, kind of trying to will himself to do it or get himself psyched up to do it. And when he opens his eyes, Oh, the picture's not there. I thought I had the picture. There's a picture of Chucky having dissected the frog for him. It's probably somewhere else. I probably misplaced it in the wrong order. Sorry. I always make these type of mistakes, but we will go forward. Also in that same class, this little hussy right here, she is so rude. She stands up and announces to the class that she has made a GoFundMe for Jake to help him get money. And this just embarrasses Jake because he doesn't want the rest of his classmates to know that he's impoverished. She doesn't care because she's a shit starter and that's what she wants to do. Let me see if I missed anything because I'm going by memory, but I have notes too, just in case. Yep, I talked about the GoFundMe. Oh yeah, the teacher decides to give Lexi kind of a detention and tells her to stay after class. And Jake doesn't want to walk around with the doll anymore, so he asks the teacher, "Can he lock Chucky up in the little cabinet for the day, and he'll come back and get him later because he doesn't want to walk around school being made fun of for having a Chucky doll." I have a comment here. Bob says, "I hope more shows do what Chucky did with the bully." Yes. Terrence says, "Just popping in to say hello." Hey, Terrence. Hello. I was just showing, I sent Tony Man your video for, it was your review of Black Panther, and he enjoyed that. Okay. So later on, there is, Terrence says, thumbs way up. Thank you. Later on, there is a talent show that's going on, and Chucky ends up sneaking out of the little cabinet that he was locked in and kind of forces Jake to pretend like he's a ventriloquist act for the talent show when really he had no plans on even being in the talent show. But this is one of the best scenes of the whole first episode because when Chucky gets up there, he just starts roasting the whole town, but he really zooms in on Lexi, which who I keep wanting to call Lizzie, Lexi, and he had, little did we know, Chucky had stole Lizzie's phone, and he is reading all her search history, saying, "Oh, did you look up such and such and such and such?" And it was all like, not all, but some of the things were like sexual in nature, and he's reading her search history on her phone to the whole auditorium, and you can see her in the back getting ready to try to snatch her phone back. But Chucky was going off, and it was hilarious. I love this, the way he's looking at her. Now, before the end of the episode, we actually unfortunately do witness Jake's father being physically abusive towards him. And so Jake goes upstairs and Chucky goes downstairs and apparently drinks up all of Jake's father's liquor and then tricks him into going to the basement so that he can electrocute him. And that scene was great because he just vomits all over the liquor all over him while he's getting electrocuted. And that was I could only get a gif of it. I wanted to play clips, but I didn't want to get dinged for copyright, so that's why I'm using gifs instead of clips. Sorry, these channels, they don't care about fair use. They don't care. They will ding you for copyright. I might get dinged for copyright for showing a gif. I don't know, but it was a good first episode. I really like that, and if you check it out, the animatronics are much smoother now than they were back in the 80s. I like that a lot. I don't love this Chucky's haircut. I feel like it's too blunt of a bob. I don't think his bob was that blunt, but that's a small thing. And also the placement of his eyelashes. I feel like they should be lower, closer to the actual lid. But other than that, the doll looks great. The show is going great. I'm going to roll right into episode 2. That's how Chucky looked when Jake found his father in the basement. And it was funny because he just kind of rose up from... I wouldn't say from the ground, but I'm assuming Jake is on his knees because the way the scene is shot, you don't like Chucky rises up into frame, and then his face does this, which you can see on the screen there. Still, don't love the blunt bob cut. He had more of a sculpted bob, but that's that. That's him actually realizing that this doll is alive. Of course, that one looks different than you can always tell the difference between like the animatronic doll and the non-animatronic doll. They should have made this faces more similar. That way, it would cut together more seamlessly. I should mention that the cops come and they investigate. They question Jake for a minute, but then they end up sending him to live with his aunt and uncle. And so the background in this particular scene is at his aunt and uncle's house in the guest bedroom where he's staying. And his aunt and uncle have a very big like mansion type house. So to Chucky, he's like, this is the life. I hooked you up. You went from living in poverty with your alcoholic dad to now you live with your rich aunt and uncle. So from Chucky's point of view, he's hooking Jake up. Here's another example of how smooth the animatronics are. The way he just got up. Look at this. Look at this. This is smooth. And I'm saying compared to what we had in the 80s. Okay, let's go to episode 2, which is called Give Me Something Good to Eat. It flashes back to 1965, and what you're seeing now is a picture of little Charles Lee Ray with his mother. And he was always crazy because it shows him. This is also probably around Halloween time. Little Charles Lee Ray has an apple, but he sees that there is a razor in it, and he takes a bite anyways. And he just smiles with the blood just coming out of his mouth, like that's the normal shit to do. But that's what he did. That's, you know, what am I going to say about it? I can't say nothing about crazy people doing crazy stuff. It jumps forward to present day Halloween. And I forgot to mention in the first episode that Jake also has a friend named Devin, because Devin was only featured maybe for a short time when they were on a school bus. And Devin was talking to Jake about his podcast. Devin has a true crime podcast. And one of the true crimes that he talks about on his podcast are the Charles Lee Ray murders. So he's talking to Jake about how he wants to study that more and he wants to do more on his podcast about that. And it's really a nice friendship. I like both characters a lot. In lieu of Jake's father passing away, one of his other bullies, what was this little boy's name? Oliver. Oliver actually does something that you rarely see in real life or on television. He apologizes. He apologizes to Jake, and he realizes what happened to his father, and he's just like, well, I'm having a Halloween party. Why don't you come to the Halloween party? So that was nice to see him apologizing and inviting him to a party. Meanwhile, Chucky is back at the aunt and uncle's house being mischievous, as one does when you're a murderous doll. Make sure. Yeah, I'm up to speed there. And he kind of decides to take out the cleaning lady. And unfortunately, the Junior and Jake come home from school and they discovered a cleaning lady like this in front of the dishwasher. Because what Chucky did was turn all the knives right side up and then trip her so that she would fall into the dishwasher and end up as you see here. Which, not a bad kill for a doll. Not at all. Also, I like this home decor in the back. I like these style cabinets and the chairs. I like this in this house. Even the chandelier. I like that. So again, the police have to come out, although this time they just rule this a freak accident. So no one gets interrogated or questioned or anything. However, Jake does know that something is up because he saw Chucky moving and talking. Let me take a moment to check out the comments. Oh, wait. Toby says, I'm back. I'm at the Publix for the free Wi Fi plus shopping. Okay. I'll try not. Well, hopefully you have headphones on so that no one's walking around listening to me. That happened to me in the store one time. This one girl was walking around. She had her phone on speaker and she was listening to a podcast. And I was like, what makes you think the whole store wants to hear the podcast you're listening to? I mean, that's kind of rude. Bob says, think it was Angry Joe's Halo reviews that showed me how little fair use actually means. Yeah. I mean, it's supposed to mean, well, the thing is, it's supposed to mean something, but these larger companies, they don't care and they will bully YouTubers because they know that most of us don't have the money or the time to take them to court. Because we could take them to court and fight, but it takes money and time to do that, which we don't have. Tony Man says yes, that he has headphones on. Okay. I was saying that Jake knows that Chucky did this, and so he goes upstairs to talk to Chucky. And I love the framing of this. I just love how that looks when he's talking to Chucky. And Chucky decides to share something with him, which is really, really cool. I really enjoyed this. When he talks about his son, he says, I have a queer kid. And of course, he's referring to Glinda. And he goes on to say, he's gender fluid. And I love the little hand gesture with it. I don't know if you guys can see me on camera. Gender fluid. that little arm. I love it. But it makes sense because when you think about it, all these years, Chucky's been wearing a rainbow sweater. Like he was you see the rainbow? He's been having on the rainbow sweater this whole time. So of course he was going to be supportive. I love that in this show. Oh, I should make that larger. I just noticed that it was not big on the screen. There we go. Let me make it bigger. Yeah, I love that they included that in the show. And it's iconic to me. I love it. And then Jake is like, well, are you okay with it? And he says, I'm not a monster, Jake. I just love it. I love it. So anyways, Jake decides he is going to go to, well, no, he doesn't decide he's going to go just yet. He finds out that Chucky has snuck out because Chucky snuck out to go to Oliver's party dressed like this, which is also hilarious. Chucky doesn't know where Oliver's party is, so that's why he's trick-or-treating. He's asking the neighbors who's having a Halloween party. But Chucky, being Chucky, does not trick-or-treat without tricking. So he also gives a woman an apple with a razor in it. How very Chucky of him. Bob says, that's a pretty cool. I like how well they dealt with Chucky's sexuality, being able to switch bodies. I love it. Like that really would make you up for anything. Yes, it would. Now, this is why Jake decides to go to the party, because he notices that Chucky's gone, and he knows that at this point, he knows that Chucky's a killer because of his father and the cleaning lady. So he decides to take an Uber to the party because he wants to try to stop Chucky. And look at this house. I mean, I couldn't get a full shot of it. These are just pictures that I found on Google. I didn't screen capture any of these myself. So I wish there would have been a wider picture of this house, but it's an amazing looking house that he's going to for the Halloween party. At the same time that Jake has Ubered over to the Halloween party, if I don't stop calling this girl Lizzie, Lexi's mother has made her bring her little sister with her to the party, which that was a thing. I don't know how many of you have younger siblings and you want to go somewhere and your parents are like, take your sister with you, take your brother with you. That's the thing. So Lexi has to take her little sister Caroline with her to the party. And Caroline ends up playing with Chucky, literally playing video games with Chucky. I forgot what video game it was they were playing. Was it Resident Evil? Somebody tell me in the comments what video game that Caroline and Chucky were playing when they were playing the video games. They showed it on screen briefly, but I can't remember what it was, and I didn't write it down. Now, here's the part where it gets really, really messy. Like, you want to talk about some bad bullying. It was bad enough where Lexi made that GoFundMe and told the whole class she made a GoFundMe for Jake because he's broke. The shit she does next is, I mean, just what a horrible, evil little person to do something like this. She shows up to the party dressed like Jake's electrocuted father. Why? I don't even know what type of person you have to be to even think of such a thing. Just evil. Anyways, this is, there some kids are laughing about it, but obviously this upsets Jake. He's able to find Chucky before, Chucky's able to hurt anyone and gets out of there. Bob Gunter says it might be Killing Zone. It looked like just a regular zombie shooting game. No, nothing specific. Oh, I thought it was a specific game. It could be that they made it non-specific so they didn't have to pay for the rights. And then the episode ends. Anything else happened before? No, that's it. Yeah, Chucky ends with Chucky telling Jake. I wrote down the exact quote: "Kill that bitch before she kills you." That's what Chucky was telling Jake to do. And you see the knife in his hand up in the room. Again, I like the composition of the shot because I love symmetrical things. I love symmetry. Ordinarily, I wouldn't like patterns this much in this room, but it's not. For some reason, the chevron pattern is not overwhelming. I mean, for the wallpaper. Maybe because the red breaks it up. I don't know, but I like it. Okay. Bob says Chucky trick-or-treating was great. And Tony Man says, according to the interwebs, it was a game made up. Okay. It looked like Resident Evil, though. The way they made up the game, it reminded me of parts of Resident Evil. And the last shot we get is him holding Chucky's knife, possibly considering doing what Chucky told him to do. I thought this was a really, really great series. I'm going to continue reviewing it. Like I said, with the Stranger Things, I'm going to do episodes 3 and 4 next Tuesday, and we're going to continue on with Chucky, episodes 3 and 4 next Tuesday as well. Like I said earlier, I will be on Hood Podcast, which will post. Let me type it in here so you all can see Hood Podcast at 9 o'clock, where we're also going to talk some more about Stranger Things, and hopefully, possibly, we will talk about Obi-Wan, which I did watch the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan, which were that are up now, and I enjoyed what I saw so far. Tony Man says, I love that framing and that light shining on Chucky. Yes, you're talking about this image right here. Yeah. Super well done. But yeah, do I have anything else to say about Stranger Things and Chucky? What do you guys have to say about I didn't see a lot of comments on Stranger Things. So of the people that are here, did you get to watch the first 2 episodes or the first episode of Stranger Things, and what did you think of it? And Tony Man says, will it be live or Memorex? Oh, you're talking about for next week? It's going to be a live stream. I'm doing the TV shows as live streams because they would just take too long for me to edit. I will have some movie reviews coming out still, but for TV, I'm just going to do live streams because it really is. It would be I mean, even doing these is labor intensive because I have to try to get these images and put them in order. Bob says, I like the season, but I think where it broke at the end was not as good as Better Call Saul. You're not the first person to say that. I think Tony Man also talked about Better Call Saul. He really loves that show. HPC. What is HPC? Tony Man says, I totally agree. Oh, Hood Podcast, HPC. I'm so slow today. Wow. So I'm going to get out of here because I do have to actually prep for Hood Podcast as well. Thank you so much for coming through. I hope you all had a good time. Don't forget to hit the like button on the way out for the algorithm. That's weird. Okay, sorry about that. Tony Man says Hood Podcast live. Remember X. Oh, I believe it's going to be recorded and then uploaded later. And Bob says later, everyone. It was fun. And Tony Man says, see you, folks. Okay, and I'm going to say goodbye as well.